All right, good morning, gentlemen. Today is, Mayor, actually pay attention today. I know you wanted me to give you a heads up, so just giving you a heads up, pay attention today. I'm not telling you why. But we left off.
Is my son on?
I can't.
Is this a X-rated share again?
No. Just you wanted me to notify you to let you know in case you weren't paying attention that we are going to Mirza Hashem finish the prayer today. So.
Okay, and how soon? Because I'm still in shul making a coffee.
7 minutes. All right.
Okay. I'm going.
We got the top line of Kufna Gimel. We're still talking about aging at the end of one's life, one's years. So Amar Rav Yehuda Berei Rav Shmuel Bar Shiles Mishmei Derat. Spelo shel Adam Nikar im ben Adam Habahu im Lav. From a hesped, from in terms of people are moved at one's funeral. From those eulogizing him, you can tell whether he's in Ben Olam Haba or not. And he's a Rav Shmuel Bar Shiles Achim Behespeda. So he says Achim Behespeda. So is this true? But we say that so Rav said to Rav Shmuel Bar Shiles, he told him, he said, go ahead and make a hesped. That's very sad when I die. In other words, that people will cry for me. The Hasam Kamina. That basically people will cry my Levi to show that I belong over in Olam Haba. So I understand if Rav was somebody who is a Ben Olam Haba, obviously. So why do he need to instruct people to give a moving eulogy so people will cry at his Levaya, right? So goes like kasha. No, if you have to deliver a moving eulogy, if it's for a deserving person, then people will cry. But if it's not for a deserving person, even if you try, go ahead and hire the best eulogizer, nevertheless that won't work. People won't cry, and then he'll be noticed that he's not a ben olam haba. So kagod mar the sunny lay kula b'madisa man achim daspeda. So what do I mean? All right. Who my townspeople from Medisa, they don't like me so much. I guess he was a strict Rav for the town of Pumbedisa. So who would be maspe me? Samarle Mistayat Rav Baruch Hanan. It'll be enough for just you and Rav Baruch Hanan to go ahead and eulogize over me, because they'll be sufficient. Obviously, between the two of you will be very moved once I pass. So by Rabbi Elazar Meirav Ezu ben Olam Haba, who's ben Olam Haba Samarlei V'aznacha Tishmel Devar Me'acharecha Lemor is Derech Lechuba, right? Then you will hear. Pasuk says, right? You will hear from behind you, and Pasuk says in Yeshaya, those who say, right, you should live a life. This is the path that one should go by. And Kasemina Bo Kisamina V'chi Tis Smelo. So it says, I guess at the end of the pasuk, whether you turn right or left, that's the proper way to eulogize someone. Rabbi Chanina Amar Kol Shadas Rabbi Seina Noiche Menu. Right, whoever I guess the Rabbanan, right, have appreciation for this person. In other words, that which he acts is proper. That is a person who is a ben olam haba. And the pasuk says further on. It says over there. It says V'savu bashuk hasaiftim. It says over there. When he goes, a person, he moves on to his place in the world, and those who and those who eulogize him go to the shuk. So Bnei Gali Amri, they say Asay Devarim Lifnei B'Tesecha. What it means that a person should act like he's right in front of his coffin, right? That's how he acts appropriately. And Bnei Yehuda Amri Asay Devarim La'achar B'Tesecha, right? Do things that they'll talk about after you're in your coffin. In other words, things that will outlast your deeds, and your good name shall last your life. Mark Yasser and Mark Yasser, and then not a machlekes. Rather, each one says, how they said it in their place. Whether they said it for as if you're in front of your coffin, or as if they'll be speaking about after you're in your coffin. So it's not awesome. Over there. Rabbi Eliezer, you should do tshuva the day before you die. So Rabbi Eliezer, there's a person knowing he's going to die. So certainly Yoshuv Hayom, you should go ahead and do tshuva today. Shema Yus Lamachar, perhaps you go ahead and die tomorrow. It turns out a person does tshuva every single day. It turns out his entire days will be full of tshuva. Also Shlomo HaMelech said in his wisdom, right? All your days, right? Your clothes will be white, and you'd have oil on your head. right? And you should have it. In other words, and what does this mean? So Amar Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, that a person should be adorned properly. So Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, it's like a king who went ahead and invited his servants to a suda, and he didn't give them tell them. He says, "Oh, you guys are coming to my feast," but he didn't tell them what time. So Pekechim, we had a very similar mashal yesterday, but a little bit different. So Pekechim, those who are wise, Shabahan Kishtas Asman, Pesach those who said, okay, he's going to invite us in a meal. Let's go ahead and get dressed in our proper clothes. Let's be ready. Let's sit by the doorway of the palace. And Amru, right? They're not missing anything. So in other words, they can have the special feast within seconds, right? So therefore, we have to be ready at any moment to walk into the palace. And Tipshin, and the foolish ones, and they said, they went to their jobs. And Amr, they said, right? They said, there's no way they can go ahead and prepare, right, a meal, right, without a lot of work before. So therefore, we're here before. So therefore, no need for us to go ahead and wait outside the palace. So immediately, the king went ahead and called his servants. So right, so the wise ones went in and they were already adorned, they're already, prepared to sit down at a royal feast. And about Tipshin, the foolish ones, and the other ones will go ahead and they walked in dirty. So the king was very happy with the wise ones because they were prepared, right? And the king, however, was angry with the foolish ones. And Amru, and those who were already adorning themselves, ready for the royal feast, can go ahead and sit and eat and drink. And those who did not prepare themselves, they should just go ahead and just stand by and watch. And so this is basically a mashal, right? So a person, right? We're in this world, and then we get called to the next world, to the royal feast. We got to be ready to go to the royal feast. You do tshuva every day, then you are ready to enter the royal feast, as opposed to somebody who gets there and says, "Oh, I didn't do my tshuva yet. I didn't, so it's too late." And the son-in-law of Rabbi Meir said in the name of Rabbi Meir, Amar Af Hey Nirnik. No, they don't just stand on the side. That's not embarrassing enough, because if you stand on the side, it looks like you're sort of like a servant. Ella Elu Be'elu Yishvin. Right? Rather, everyone is sit down to the table. However, the good ones, they're the ones who eat, and the other ones who didn't prepare, they're the ones who are hungry. And they drink, but the other ones are thirsty. Right? You will eat, his servants will eat, and you will be starving because you didn't prepare. And I don't know. And my servants will drink, and you guys will thirst. And hine of the yaronu mituv lev yatem titzaku mikav lev, right? And you guys, my servants, they'll be singing out from good, and the people who don't follow, they will be of broken heart. And davar acher, and some say have another shot of this pasuk when it says you should go ahead, and the pasuk was, we said, right, the pasuk was b'chol eis begadecha white, right, levanim, right, v'shem al rashacha al yachzer. So the baracher b'chol eis begadecha levanim. Actually, the next pasuk says elu tzitzis. That means every morning you have tzitzis. That means the white you should be wearing is tzitzis every day. V'shem al rashacha al yachzer, and the oil on your head. Right, so that means shemen, like shame, like hakadosh, like shem Hashem, should be on your head. Elu tefillin. That's your tefillin. Means you should wear your tzitzis all the time and have your tefillin all the time. And that is what the pasuk is telling you. Hajjalach Shayel. Now we finished the parak of Shayel, which is the 23rd parak of
Mazel Tov.
Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Elano, Chol Yisrael, Simon Tov, Mazel Tov, Simon Tov, Buddy, I don't hear you singing.
He's singing. He's singing. Now,
give us a dance, man.
All right. Fine, let's go back there. All right, music. Ready? All right, here we go. Beauty. All right, now we start the 20, the last parak. No, all right. A guy he's traveling. his bus was late, his whatever it was, his flight was late. He gets and he's still traveling on the road, and he's not at his home yet for Shabbos, and he's carrying stuff with him. Right, he didn't get home in time for Shabbos. He's coming back from work. So Misha Hichshik B'derech Noisen Kisel Nachri, and he has his wallet. What should he do? He's allowed to go ahead and give it to a non-Jew. Now, normally a person is not allowed to go ahead and ask a guy to do malacha for them, right? So he's asking him to carry in the Shus HaRabim. He's asking him to, hold on to his item, carry in the Shus HaRabim for him. So Gemara will have to address how this is possible. Why are you allowed to ask somebody to carry it for you? Because normally you can't ask a guy to do malacha for you on Shabbos. So Mishik B'derech Noisen Kisel Nachri, he should give his wallet to the Nachri. V'im ein imo Nachri, if there's no guy around, Menichal Chamer, and he has his donkey with him. He can go ahead and put it on his donkey. And normally, once again, a person is not allowed to have his animals do malacha for him. We'll have to explain why this is permissible. He gives a chatzir, and once he gets to a chatzir, which one is allowed to go ahead and rest things down and carry whatever. So he gives a chatzir. Hachitzayna naitel sakelev haniklim b'Shabbos. Once he gets to a chatzir, then he can basically go ahead and take it off if he's allowed to remove it, stuff that are not muksa, and then just put it over there with the chatzir for Shabbos and not carry it anymore. And those things that cannot be carried any longer, or actually those things that are muksa, no touching Shabbos, matir hachavalim ha'asaki naiflim eliyam. Untie the ropes and it will fall down on its own. Fine. Let's see. Zok the Gemara. So my time is Rabbanon. Let me say Kisa Nachri. Why is a person allowed to go ahead and give it to ask a guy to go ahead and do the work for him? So Kimlu Rabbanon the Ein Adam Mami Atzmal L'Mayno. Because the Rabbanon know that a person basically will not stand aside while he loses his money, and he Lasharis Lei Asi Lasuya Dalaramas. If you don't allow him to go ahead and give it to a guy to go ahead and carry it, which is only a derabanan, then he himself will go ahead and carry it to a safe location, and he'll violate a deraisa. So in order to avoid violating the deraisa, therefore we allow a guy to go ahead and carry it for him. And Amarav Dafka Kisa, and Dafka something with his wallet about Mitzia, but let's say it was a lost object. He found a $20 bill, right? So he can't go ahead and give the $20 bill to a guy to carry it for him. So it says, lost object low. So he says, Pshit, that's obvious. So Kisa tonight, what do you mean? Our mission says his wallet doesn't say he found a lost object, he's allowed to have a guy to do it. So Kisa tonight. So Mojo said, maybe over there, even a Mitzia, he's allowed to go ahead and give anything to a guy. By the Tani Kisa, and the reason why he said his wallet, maybe only said something which is common. So Kamash Balon, then no, only his wallet, but not a lost object. We're only talking about if the Mitzia never came into his hand. He just saw it, and therefore he told the guy, pick it up for me. But once he picks it up, then basically he acquires it. It's his, like the wallet. However, there's another version of that last thing. Some say it different. What about a Mitzia that comes to his hand? Since he said once he picks it up and he acquires it, so therefore it's just like his wallet, it's his possession. Therefore he's allowed to go ahead and give that to a guy to go walk it for him. Or maybe since he didn't work hard for it, right? He didn't work hard for the money. He just found it, so he picked it up. It doesn't mean the same to him as his wallet, right? His wallet, he worked hard for that money in his wallet. So therefore, that money, he might carry $. But when it comes to just finding money, I found it, easy come, easy go. Maybe we would not be permitted to do it. So therefore, maybe according to this version, if one, even though he picks up a $20 bill, maybe he still will not be able to, maybe it's bedafka only if it was his wallet, stuff he earned for, but not something that he just found, take us. The Gemara does not, according to the second version, does not give a teretz. Fine. And then the next part of the Mishnah says if he's not with a guy, then he can go ahead and give it put it on his donkey to carry. So Tamadein Imo Nachri. Yeshimo Nachri. But it's the only reason why you give it to the donkey is because he there's no guy with him. But if there's a guy with him, then Nachri Yaivlei, then his first option should be to give it to the guy. So my time, what's the reason? So Chamor. By a donkey, you are commanded and it's resting. Right? If you own a donkey, right, you're commanded behemtecha, right? Your animals, you're commanded to make sure that they don't violate Shabbos. You can't have them plow for you on Shabbos. So you're commanded on them. But when it comes to a guy, right? So you're not in charge, right? Of going to go ahead and be mechala Shabbos. You're not in charge. So okay. So what about this? Let's say you have with you a chamor, a donkey, a cheresh, right? A deaf mute, a shaita, a person who's deranged or crazy, or in the kalton. So which one do you put it on? Or which one do you give the money you're traveling with all four, right? It must be, quite the, the road trip, right? So you're with all four, and also your wallet's on you, and Shabbos started. So what do you do with your wallet? So we say, achomor manach le. You put it on the donkey, right? Because the donkey as an animal. The cheresh of the katan, those you don't do, you don't give it to the cheresh of the katan. Why is that? My time, because those are humans, and the animal's not a human. Therefore, better to just put on the back of the donkey. Okay, what about this case? Cheresh v'shaita. You're walking with a deaf mute and a shaita. Which one do you give it to? The shaita. You put it the shaita. That's less bad. So therefore, the cheresh, a person who's a deaf mute, has more cognitive ability, and therefore you give it to the shaita to carry for you until the chatzer and not the cheresh. And shaita the katan. And if you're, let's say, walking with a shaita and a katan, so somebody who deranged and somebody who is a minor, the shaita, you give it to the shaita because once again, he's not a person who's obligated in the mitzvahs, and a katan will eventually be obligated in the mitzvahs. Therefore, he gives it to the shaita, not to the katan. So iboilu. What this question? Cheresh v'katan. You have a deaf mute, and you have a person who is a minor, a katan. So what's halacha there? So according to Eliezer, he's not a question. Why? The tiny little Bryce, Trumas cheresh, the truma given that was now normally a person has to go ahead and separate truma from his grain, from his harvest, right? You give approximately 1/50, 2% to the kohanim. That's your truma gedola. So that has to be done by a person who is a bardas, a person who has who's commanded a mitzvahs. So if somebody who is a deaf mute, there's certain mitzvahs he's not commanded. But according to Rabbi Eliezer, the truma taken by a cheresh, turn the page, should not go out the chulin. In other words, that's considered to be truma, right? It's considered to be separated. So according to Rabbi Eliezer, a cheresh is basically no different than a gadol. So obviously, if you have a cheresh and a katan, according to Rabbi Eliezer, you give it to the katan because he's only a minor, but a cheresh is really commanded in mitzvahs. Mipnei shu suffik, because a cheresh is at least a suffik. So the question is, in terms of a cheresh and a katan, who do you give it to? That's the only one of the rabbanon. That's now we learn in the Mishnah. There are 5 people that should not go ahead and give truma. If they go give truma, it's nothing. Their truma, that which they separated, it didn't mean anything. It's still considered to be tevel. It's still considered to be a produce that one did not take truma for. So who are the 5? Cheresh, right? So it says specifically a deaf mute, right? Shaita, a deranged person, the katan, right? And a katan. So we see that a cheresh and katan, both according to Rabbanan, are people that their truma is not obligated. A person who takes truma off produce that wasn't his, or Nachi went ahead and took the truma of a Jew even with his permission. Ain trumasa truma. All these people, their truma is not theirs, right? It's not considered to be a good truma, and therefore it's considered like no one did anything yet. So now the question is, according to Rabbanan, in this case, the person is walking and he has his wallet, and all of a sudden he realizes he has his wallet and he has a katan with him, he has a cheresh with him. So he said over here, what do we say here? Do we say that maybe you should give it to the deranged person? Excuse me, to the deaf mute, because the katan eventually, right? The 9-year-old eventually will become a 13-year-old, right, or the 6-year-old, right? Or maybe you give it to the katan. Because if you go ahead, because over there, maybe if you give it to the deaf mute, the person might see this, and therefore in the future he might just give it to somebody, even though this person is a deaf mute, he's 25 years old, he might give it to a healthy 25-year-old, and therefore violating the Torah. So right, some say you give it to the deaf mute, and some say you give it to the katan. If you have no options available, you're there alone, you don't even have a donkey. So what's halacha there? Some Rabbi Yitzchak. There actually is another option. But however, the Chachamim did not want to go ahead and tell us what to do. So what was the other option? Go ahead and carry it. And less than daled amos. So the whole we don't want you to carry daled amos. First Rabbin is a deraisa. But if you carry something less than daled amos, you're not chayiv. So therefore, go ahead and carry it 2 amos at a time. You carry it 2 amos at a time, you'll never violate a deraisa. So, but the Chachamim did not want to give that eitzah. So Ma'ilo Rasa Chachamim Legalai. So why do you want to give that reason? Mishim Kavod Elokim Aster Devar V'Kod Malachim Chakor. You should go ahead and the honor of Hashem. You should go ahead and hide. In other words, if you go ahead and you tell people this. So v'hacha my kavod elokimi. Go over here. What's the kavod elokim? What's the honor they're giving Hashem? So dilma asi lasui daladamas v'sharav. Perhaps the person you tell people, if you leave your wallet on you, it's fine. You just walk it 2 amos at a time. People will then take that eitzah and they'll forget and they'll walk longer than dalad amos, and then they'll violate the raisas in order to avoid people being mechal Shabbos. Therefore, they didn't say that this eitzah what to do in the Mishnah. Fine. So Tanya learned about Rabbi Eliezer. So on that day, they made a saw. Basically, they put piles, right, like piles of mitzvahs. So in other words, they made many gedarim, right, many fences in order to avoid the deraisa. So they piled on, just like one piles on a saw. So, and we'll explain in Rabbi Yeshua Omer, Bo b'yom, on the day when they enacted this takana, what to do, give it to a donkey or give it to a guy, right? Machu saw, right? They basically they leveled off a saw. In other words, they took off part of the mitzvah. What's it talking about? So Tanya says Tanya, so what's that similar to? In other words, they piled it on. So it's like a box which is full of gourds and cucumbers, right? So Adam, nice in in other words, we have the box. The box is filled with, let's say, large, cucumbers, right? So you can still go ahead and put a mustard seed. In other words, you have a box of mitzvah deraisas, right? Don't carry. You can still put in other drabanans. Okay, you can go ahead and give it to a guy. And Mashal the Rabbi Shua lama davar daima. And the Mashal Rabbi Shua is la davar daima. So la riva malaya devash. If you have, let's say, a container full of honey, and nice in the seichar reminding that guys, you go ahead and you put right large items such as pomegranates or nuts. The honey is an overflow. So in other words, if you tell people they're allowed to violate the rabbanans, then they might go ahead and violate the deraisas, i.e., the honey will come out of the box. So that was the two mashals. So Amar, you said earlier, if there's no nachri with him, so he can put on a donkey. There's a violation of mechamer. One is not allowed to go ahead and cause his donkey to go ahead and carry items for him. If one does that, that is actually a malacha on Shabbos. That is a deraisa. The Torah says you can't do any malacha. The whole problem is having your donkey carry for you is when your donkey carries something. In other words, it does the akira and the hanacha. Akira means it uplifts it, right? It removes it from one place, it travels Daled Amos, and then it puts it down there. So if the animal never removes it, i.e. it's walking, and as it's walking, then you put it on. So in other words, it never did the akira, never did the uprooting, right? So whereas but what do you mean? Won't it stop to drink? It will stop to go to the bathroom, and then the animal, once it restarts again, it will do an akira and hanacha. So Gemara says no. Kshima lechas manichala. Right. So he says no. So he said kshima lechas manichala. Kshima medis not lemena. In other words, when it's about to stop to go ahead and take a drink or whatever it's going to stop, then you remove it for it. So therefore, you always put it on and take it off as it's moving. Therefore, there won't be an akira or an acha. So yihachi afilu chaver nami. If that's the case, why can't he go ahead and just maybe carry it with another friend, carry it with another Jew? Right? Anything that if he does himself on his own, he's chayv v'chatas. So he does with somebody else, it's aser midrabanan. It's patav aser, right? If two people carry his wallet, then he's not chayv v'chatas, but it's still aser midrabanan. However, kol shevachera patav aser, but something which is his chaver is patav aser. In other words, if it's something, right, that the two of them would do it together, then b'chamara mutar lechatchila. Then with his donkey, it's mutar lechatchila. So therefore, in this case, it's mutar lechatchila to give a donkey, but it's not mutar lechatchila for another Jew to go ahead and carry with him. And Amar Rav Barava Haisa Chivilasa Munachas Al Loksagav. Let's say he has a bundle or something on his shoulders, and all of a sudden Shabbos starts. So what should he do? Rotz tachta ad shmegia lebesa. You should go ahead and running. Now, if he has it and he's not stopped, so go ahead and continuously carry it, right, without doing an akira, and therefore and then run to the house. And dafka ratzav kali kali, but you shouldn't go slowly. My timer. What's the reason? Came and the less akira asi the akira ba'nacha. In the end, because if he's walking normally, then he might forget that he's really violating. Therefore, he might stop and then restart again. So once you stop and restart, they're going to violate the raisa. So sof kimat lebeisei. In the end, when he gets to his house, right over there, right? When he gets to his house, it's impossible for him not to go ahead and stop. And he stops in front of his house, then he's doing akira from right outside his door, and then a hanacha inside his house. Right, and therefore he'll be basically moving stuff from Rosh Hashanah to Rosh Yachid. So Ryan says no, he throws it off. He throws it off. In an abnormal way. So a little more. So Rabbi Chama hamachamer Actually, you know what? We'll stop here. I know we'll stop a little short, but tomorrow I think the first time was a little short, and we'll catch up tomorrow. So tomorrow, Mitzvah Hashem, we'll continue here. I know we started late, but Mondays and Thursdays. So everyone should have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.